If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit. He choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stacked that he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about... Wait.
And good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM. Right here on DSM Media, we're live. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, you know the drill. Retweet, share, like, thumbs up, subscribe. Click every button that's in your mouse or fingertip, and let's continue to spread the good word of Trending in the AM. It's myself, Phil Stifle, here today at Bearded Knowledge on Twitter with my main man, Jason Voorhees, at Mustang3651. Mark Moschitelli, Mark with a C, will be checking in later this week. He had some pressing family matters, so best of luck there, Mark. Hey, we got lots to talk about on Overreaction Monday because that is what today is, so make sure you hashtag it on Twitter all day long, hashtag Overreaction Monday. And we got lots to overreact to today. But is it really an overreaction? I tend to always have these overreactions and then think, are they really overreactions? And I got a really interesting way to bring up the Phillies here because we are going to talk about the Phillies here for the first half of the show. But Jason, good morning. How are you today?
Doing great, man. We had a good time yesterday. Little get together.
Yeah, I barbecued some chicken in the pouring rain yesterday for you, my man Mike. So yeah, that was really fun having an umbrella over my head while I was on the grill.
That's pretty funny. I should have taken a picture of that for blackmail, but
yeah, that's what I do for people. I will cook in the pouring down rain for anybody. I really don't mind. Anyway, so Phillies won yesterday in extra innings, 4-3, on an error that got 2 runs home. Roman Quinn, again, the one thing he does well is run and run with speed. Used that speed, got us that win yesterday. But that's 2 of 3 we dropped to the Dodgers. I think it's 5 of our last 6 we've lost now. And I put out a tweet yesterday, and I'm going to bring it up so I can read it exactly here. And obviously, got a large reaction of mixed reactions from people because, everybody, is whatever. So even with yesterday's win, there's still 8 out. So Phillies are 8 out. It's May 22nd. It's only 2 weeks into the season, or it's still early. Crowd definitely need to be concerned now. Major shakeup is needed. If not, we'll be 15 games out before you know it. That was the tweet I put out there. So, Jason, before we even talk about that, so today I was on Facebook this morning. And the first thing I do on Facebook, I check my memories. I love reading my Facebook memories. I love to call myself out, for poor sports takes, years ago. And today's Facebook memory was me sharing an article of a Phillies loss in 2017. And it was the same exact thing. They got crushed by the Rockies in 2017 on this date. They lost multiple games. They had only scored 6 runs in their previous 8 games in this stretch. They had back-to-back 3-hit games that they got beat in. Odubel Herrera was still smashing his helmet and making boneheaded plays. Mediocre Jared Eichhoff was the pitcher that day, a guy that they kept selling us on over and over again that was going to be the star. And he was just mediocre, and he kept saying things in the post-game press conference, saying, well, I think I'm there. It's just not working out, for the success. I'm making good pitches. They're just hitting them. Odubel Herrera, I'm making good swings. I'm just missing the ball when I swing at it. These are the quotes from this article. So Overreaction Monday is something has to change. And what has to change is the culture. I mean, I say we got to make a major shakeup. but it's the culture of this team and organization that is an issue. And it's been an issue for a really, really long time. If the same issues were happening in 2017 as they are now, yes, 99% of that team isn't here other than Odubel still, and maybe Roman Quinn too. But it's that same culture is still here, even with a different management team and different players. It seems like there's a culture issue, a locker room issue in Philly that, yeah, we're not winning, but we're not that bad. And it really, really struck a nerve this morning when I read that. You know, the comments from 2017 feeling eerily similar to right now.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really get much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Similar in comparison. You look at the tweets and they're almost the same exact tweet. And what it tells you, it's same old, same old. It's the same old situation with the Phillies. I mean, every year we get our hopes up. You know, the year I can remember that when they signed Harper, I was like, I was back in. You know, I had been out because I was pissed off, and that's how I get. And you know what? Because I care. I hate when people tell me or question my fanhood because I'm negative about the team. Well, give me something to be positive about. There's nothing to be positive about when this team has not won, has not made the playoffs since 2011. Okay? So stop with the nonsense. Stop with the bullshit. Stop protecting these guys and acting like everything's going to be okay. When the bottom line is, yes, this team is better as far as on paper. You know, they went out and they signed Kyle Schwarber, who I'll get to him in a minute. They signed Nick Castellanos. They re-signed JT Realmuto. We'll get to that in a little bit too. You know, they have Zach Wheeler. This team has better players than it had in 2017, but it's the same old situation. They are inconsistently inconsistent.
You want to hear another weird thing, and you know, we could talk about Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, and what kind of shakeups need to happen. But you know, it's obviously all right now. You know, I know I'm saying it. I know you believe it to an extent too. That Joe Girardi is pretty much the crux of the problem right now. That 2017 team. I always say you take on the personality of your coach, your manager. You know, in all sports. Well, that was before Gabe Kapler. That was still the Pete Mackanin team in 2017. Talk about a lifeless manager. A guy, old school manager, just sit there with the sourpuss look on his face, arms crossed in the dugout like this. And they took on his like, oh, it's okay. You know, it's you know, it's okay to be, you know, passive. That's the same personality that they've got right now with Joe Girardi. You know, the eerily similarities between 17 and now, except for the fact that 2017, you know, had like Aaron Altier type guys on the team, not Bryce Harper's on the team. But the results are exactly the same. And what's the common thread? Well, there's three of them: Roman Quinn, Odubel Herrera, and a lifeless manager. So maybe we just get rid of those three people: Odubel, Roman Quinn, and Joe Girardi. Everything will be solved. But realistically speaking, I don't think it's too much to say. Now, I'm going to go through this tweet real quick. So the tweet I got people that saying that they're amazed that Girardi hasn't been fired. People saying, well, it's still early. You got to wait till mid-June before you make that kind of a decision. I've got people saying that Joe Girardi, what's that going to do? You know, that Castellanos and Schwarber have already become lazy Philadelphians in a short period of time. You know, people telling me that, you know, what you know, you fire the manager, you still have a crappy team. You know, I don't know. You know, obviously other people, you know, that just tell me I'm an idiot. But, you know, that's another whole subject. You know, it's just like everybody keeps saying it's either too soon to worry, which we're a quarter of the way through the season. We're over, what are we, 41, 42 games in? We're a quarter of the way through the season. But also, what harm will firing the manager do? It ain't going to make you any worse. But maybe it lights a spark under the player's ass.
Part of anytime when I analyze any of our teams, whether it's the Phillies, the Eagles, Flyers, Sixers, you know, I really don't do much with the Union, but anytime you look at where a team is and how they're performing and where they're at in the season, you have to take a look around at the rest of the league to really get a true idea of, just how dire this situation is and how dire this situation could be. And right now I'm looking at, I'll just take a look at a snapshot of the division. Obviously, the Mets right now are the only team in this division that actually are playing very well. I mean, if you look, the Phillies are actually tied with the Braves. They're both 8 games out. And then you got the Marlins right behind them at 8.5, and you got the Nationals who are really, in the toilet. So, yeah, while on paper you could say, well, it is early and they're only 8 games out, that's fine. But take a look at the rest of the league. You got the Milwaukee Brewers who are, playing excellent baseball. And then you got the St. Louis Cardinals who have been super red hot, So you got 2 good teams in that division. And then, oh, by the way, you got in the NL West, you got the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Giants. So I don't see this Phillies team, coming into the year, I was saying, well, maybe they have a shot at the wild card. I don't see this Phillies team competing for even a playoff position unless they do something drastic. And you know what? People could say, oh, it's early, or firing the manager is not going to do anything. I totally disagree. A lot of times, maybe firing the manager will only help in the short term, but this team needs a long-term fix to the point where you just stated it. 2017, they had the same issues. This team is lackadaisical. This team does not play fundamental baseball. This team is all they worry about is home run or strikeout. I could go on and on and on. I could bitch and I can moan and I can, go on these rants. It's not going to make my health any easier. I'm going to end up having a heart attack. But the bottom line is, I just speak the truth. And okay, yes, while on paper, the Phillies offense right now is still putting up pretty decent numbers. Okay. I mean, if you look at their stats, they're scoring 4.5 runs a game, but that's actually only 9th in the league. So it's pretty good. I mean, they're top 10.
It's average.
They are 5th in the league in average. They're hitting 248. Okay. Their on base percentage is .310, but that's only 16th in the league. And that's part of the problem. They're not getting a lot of guys on base, but when they do, their situational hitting sucks. They have a high average, but their average with running and scoring position is bottom tier in the league. That continues to be an issue. Even with these, games where they've had 3-game stretches of putting up 11 runs, 2 weeks ago when they went on that little thing and everyone was like, oh, the Phillies are back. And I just laughed. Yeah. And their slugging percentage is .412. Okay, that's top 10. And they have a great OPS. But I'm not worried about OPS. I'm not worried about any of this stuff. I'm worried about wins, okay? So for the clowns in the back, I'll say it a little louder. This Phillies team is average at best, okay? Right. They're not turning the corner. They haven't.
I don't think you no heart attacks. No heart attacks live on the air.
Phil. I'm frustrated because I'm frustrated at the people that continually come in my mentions and say everything's going to be okay, or that Kyle Schwarber has turned the corner. No, Kyle Schwarber has not. He's a waste. It was a wasted signing.
All right,
Kyle Schwarber has done nothing in this. He's had one good season. One. Look it up.
Oh, I agree with you. Hey, remember, I'm the one that said he's the bronze medal signing of free agency. And I got
imagine. I said it to you. I said it to you the other day. Imagine if he was the only one we signed and we didn't sign Castellanos. I'm not going to sit here and trash Castellanos. Anybody that's doing that is an idiot. The guy, they showed a stat yesterday that Castellanos was actually nearing his career long in no hits. I believe his career long happened in 2017 with Detroit. I think it was 0 for 20. He was nearing that yesterday, but then he had 2 hits. Okay. Don't trash Castellanos. Castellanos might be the one bright spot besides Harper.
All right. So, and look, the question last week was time to have a tough conversation was the title last week. And today's an overreaction Monday kind of day. So we like to overreact. All right. But this is not an overreaction. Firing Joe Girardi is not an overreaction. Firing Joe Girardi is the natural reaction to a team that's underachieving. If you really believe that this team is a good team, and they're not, that means they're underperforming, which means the coach has to fall on the knife for that. So, but if that's not the answer, then what is? And the answer is that you have to take steps back to take steps forward. And it's an overreaction. Yet last week, I brought up JT Realmuto and his struggles and whether you trade that catcher, whether you can win, whether giving him and that contract to a winning team for whatever. You know, some people liked it, some people didn't. Now you hear people talking on the dial. You know, we're off the dial. You should have the dial turned off, us plugged into the Apple CarPlay of your car, and you should be listening to this show on your car ride to work every day. Because the radio dial just copies. Now they're talking on the dial about trading JT Realmuto. Maybe Jason, they listen to the show. I don't know. Maybe they get their ideas from this show. I don't know. But all right, so you don't want to trade JT Realmuto then either. Well, then what do you got? You've got to make changes team. You can't continually go on with a team that's so poorly constructed, with such a poor minor league system. There isn't somebody in the wings waiting to step up. Or there isn't somebody in the wings that you could trade for a new star to fix this lineup. So you're going to have to trade people. If you don't want to trade JT Realmuto, God forbid if we mention trading Bryce Harper, you know, I don't know. I don't even know what the rules are in baseball. I know in basketball, you can't trade a free agent signing till a certain point. I don't know if that's a case in baseball. So, you know, Castellanos and Schwarber, I don't even know if you can trade them. Is there a rule like that in baseball, like basketball, Jason?
What?
So, like in basketball, if you sign a free agent, you cannot trade them till at least like 6 months into their contract. There's rules. You can't if baseball was like basketball, we legally wouldn't be allowed to trade Schwarber or Castellanos yet.
Well, I wouldn't want to trade them because honestly, I mean, they just got here, and as much as I'm down on Schwarber, listen, I get your point.
I wasn't getting to that. I was going to get to somebody else. That's what I was going to get to. So I was saying I don't know if you could trade them, but you shouldn't trade them because they're new to the team. God forbid we say Bryce Harper. I've already taken flack for saying JT Realmuto. So what I'm going to suggest then, if you're going to trade an offensive player, your next best bet to get something in return, crazy to say it, is Alec Bohm. Can you get a good relief pitcher, a good starting pitcher? Could you get a center fielder for Alec Bohm maybe?
Then here's where I'm gonna go against you on that.
I'm trying to come up with somebody.
I got that, Phil, but this is why. See, I think we both agree that there is no short-term fix. It doesn't even matter if you trade an Alec Bohm. This team, and I hate to say it, but they've been trying to piecemeal it on a year-by-year basis as far as bringing in free agents, and that's part of the problem. When your farm system sucks to the point that the Phillies farm system does, to have a complete ineptitude at every level in the minor leagues, up until recently, which we know that they are doing work to fix it. I mean, they've made quite a few changes. Yep. And listen, I know it doesn't happen overnight. So it's easy for us to overreact and say, well, they suck. But they are trying to get better. But it's not going to get better overnight. It takes years, dude. It takes years. Because in baseball, we know, and especially with the Phillies, we know that they always take so long to bring these guys up. So you don't know how good these guys are until 8-9 years later. I'll give you a guy example. Andrew Payne. He's a guy in the low minors right now. Everyone's like, oh, he's going to be a real deal. He's going to be a real deal. That's fine and dandy. Okay? But my point is with the Phillies track record, he's either going to get screwed up somehow down there, or they're going to wait too long to bring him up. And then when they do bring him up, he's going to struggle, and then they're going to send him down. That's what they do. The Phillies, they don't develop these guys. It's the same issue the Flyers had. The Flyers aren't necessarily bad at drafting. It's the developmental side of things that they suck at. And that's the same with the Phillies. We don't develop prospects. It's unfortunate, but it's a fact. Anyone that wants to say otherwise, show me the stats. Show me the facts. So what I'm getting at is I don't want to trade an Alec Bohm because Alec Bohm to me is the one guy that I would want to keep going forward with on my team because he's a young guy that they have developed. He's turned the corner. He had a bad sophomore season, and you could see that he's back to where, as far as his.
Okay, so you basically answered my question then. Okay, I mean we can just end the show right now because you basically solved my. I was saying, all right. So the whole point was we got to make a major shakeup. If you don't want to trade or get rid of Joe Girardi, then you got to trade players. Well, if we don't want to trade the players, you got to get rid of the coach. You got to bring in a new culture. Don't trade these guys. This team on paper is pretty talented. They're obviously scoring runs at certain points in bunches. So if we can not overreact and say realistically this team is just underachieving, that may be a short-term answer is relieving Joe Girardi, promoting Larry Boa, promoting Jimmy Rollins for the rest of the year. I don't know. Putting somebody in there just as an interim basis, just to maybe motivate these guys to change the culture a little bit. And then next offseason, you bring in another coach. We know Joe Girardi isn't Dave Dombrowski's guy anyway. So if we don't want to take a step back by getting rid of players to build forward going forward, if we want to roll with this team, we don't want to trade Castellanos or Schwarber yet. We're not going to trade Harper unless he requests out. Nobody would want JT Realmuto the way he's hitting in that contract. He's still got 3 years of $25 million a year left on his contract after this year. You're not going to trade Bone. Reese Hoskins doesn't have any value, really. You're not going to trade Wheeler. You're not going to trade Nola. So the only way to take a step forward, at least in the eyes of the fans, is to get rid of Joe Girardi. Will it work? Who knows? But the worst it'll do is not make us any worse.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's something to be said as to your original point about trading. It may come to that because like I said, the biggest frustration is look around the league. Look at teams that, look at the White Sox, okay? Mm-hmm. The White Sox, they've been bad for so long, right? But they've drafted well. So they lose Eloy Jimenez, who's basically one of their best players, right? They've lost like a ton of guys. I think they had like 8 guys out on the IL. And they just keep bringing up young guys from their farm system, and they don't miss a beat. And that's my point. There's so many teams like that. The Cardinals, they just brought up a kid, Nolan Gorman. I believe he's like maybe he's a top 10 prospect in baseball. Look at the Cardinals lineup. They don't even need that guy, but they brought him up anyway. You know why? Because they have that luxury. They're actually playing well, and they're like, you know what? Let's bring up a young kid. Unfortunately, the Phillies, they don't have that luxury. They have to play Bryce Harper because they don't have anybody else. That's the difference.
We got an interesting question from George. I do want to address this because I think it's different. So he says, I know nothing about baseball or hockey, but looking at most of our teams in the city have issues developing talent. That's awesome. The pressure playing in the city. And while I think that could be a point made for hockey, basketball, football, I think baseball is a little different because there's so many minor league teams. I mean, you got 2 of the minor league teams play around Philly. Some of them play down in Florida. There's so many kids. I think it's more of a fundamental issue in the organization and the people that were running the organization, the farm system for the Phillies. What they were doing in the minors was not jiving with what they were doing in the pros. And there was a little disconnect between who was running the minor league organization and the development program and the guys running the top of the organization. In football, you got the practice squad. That's really it. In basketball, hockey, you got one minor league team, and they're always real close to each other. Baseball, it's so spread all over the place. Plus, the Phillies have this cheapness, George, of where they manipulate the service time of their players more than any other team in the league that I could tell to keep these guys, from making that big paycheck. So they stunt the development sometimes, which can hurt the overall development, so that these guys can't be called up till they're 25, 26 years old. It saves them money, etc. But I really don't think the pressure of Philly plays a factor on the Philly side of it. Now, maybe the other teams, but not the Phillies. I don't know if you agree or disagree, Jason.
I mean, I think that's a great point, though, regardless of if it doesn't affect the Phillies. I think that was a great point by George. And I do think that has a lot to do with a reason a lot of athletes in Philly, not just young guys, just any athletes in general, sometimes don't do well coming to Philly, and then you see them leave and they thrive. I mean, it happens all the time. We're seeing it with the Phillies. I mean, J.P. Crawford, a guy that hit the left side of a barn when he was here in Philly. He goes to Seattle and he's a super. I mean, he's not going to put up.
He's hitting over 300. He's back in that 3-hole in their lineup.
So I mean, you see it all the time, and that's why I say it is to a certain extent a problem with development. It definitely is with the Phillies. I mean, that's 100% their problem. I mean, it's not. You can't say that it's that they don't draft, because like I said, I've seen plenty of guys that have come and gone and do well when they're not in Philly. So it's definitely a system.
Look, first off, it's a person. If you can't thrive in Philly, it's not a talent thing. It's mentally handling the pressure. And I don't want people to think that that's because we're bad fans. We're just passionate fans. Would you rather be in a city that holds their players accountable and their teams accountable, or a city like Miami where it's a playoff game and it's 30 minutes into the game and there's 10,000 empty seats because the fans just don't care? So I'd rather be in this city, and I want the athletes that are mentally strong and can handle it. But yeah, I mean, there might be some. You got to remember, a lot of kids in all sports, when they first get into the pros, they're 23, 22, 24 years old. They've been the best in their little league, in their high school, in their middle school, even in a lot of them in college, the best. Then they get here, and then, they're not the best anymore. So they've never, up to this point in their career, they've never faced adversity. So when they get to the pros and it's in Philly and they struggle at first and they get the booing crowd or the harsh criticism from the media, they're not used to that because they've never had to face that. So maybe is there something that maybe sports as a whole, all these leagues, or at least the cities themselves and the teams in each city, should give these kids, while they're training them how to hit a baseball better or catch a football better, they should also be coaching and teaching these kids how to handle being in the limelight and the pressures of being a professional athlete. Should they help them more with the mental aspect of being a professional and being a star, so to say? Should teams have responsibility, these young kids, when they're going from being boys to men? Should they have some responsibility in helping groom these kids on that aspect versus just let's get them to be the best athlete on the field so we can make the most money and win a title?
Well, I don't particularly know the answer to that. I think you're on to something.
It's a good question from George, and it
I think you're on to something. But
on these teams,
but let me
pick a Philly right now.
Let me further my point that I'll give you another example of a team that just does it right now. I know that they had the cheating scandal, but I could care less because they have talent, and a lot of that talent came from a former GM that was in Philly. I'm looking at the Houston Astros, okay? Perfect example, Carlos Correa. He was the #1 coveted free agent this year, right? Signed a mega deal with Minnesota. Do you know why Houston was not worried a lick about signing that guy? Because they had another guy to bring up that just takes his place, and they don't miss a beat. His name is Jeremy Pena. Look at his numbers. Like, the guy is like a stud. He's the next stud shortstop, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, when you draft well and when you develop players, you don't have to worry about signing every Bryce Harper or bringing in $20 million free agents that underperform, because you have guys that can just come in. It's the same thing. When you develop players, you don't let yourself become, what's the word I'm looking for? You don't sit on your laurels because you always have the next guy to bring up. It's the next man mentality. We see it in a lot of sports. We saw it in 2017. Obviously, that was
you got to have the in place to develop. And what's funny? Who turned around that Houston development, minor league development? The same guy that turned around our Phillies development and then didn't get to stick around for the World Series win.
Yeah, Ed Wade.
Ed Wade. Everybody's harsh on Ed Wade in this city.
Know.
Ed Wade, now looking back on it, is one of the greatest GMs in Philly sports history because we do not win the 08 World Series without Ed Wade. Ed Wade was kind of like the Sam Hinkie, except his team actually has won a title since then, where Hinkie's, process with the Sixers hasn't produced a title yet. Ed Wade brought in Cole Hamels, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins. Not Pat Gillick, not Ruben Amaro, but Ed Wade. And then he goes down there to Houston. And Correa, Springer. I don't know if he was involved in getting what's the other big player, the short guy? Why can't I throw him? Yeah. No, not Bregman, the other guy.
Oh, Altuve.
Altuve. I don't know if he was part of bringing in Altuve. He was part of bringing in Bregman. Dude, he turned that minor league organization around. And didn't they win? Have they won 2 World Series down in Houston?
Yeah.
And I think he was fired before but he was fired before they won the first World Series. So Ed Wade, man, developing talent.
We trashed that guy. I trashed that guy.
That was before my Twitter time. That was back in Facebook time, and maybe even before Facebook time. I used to trash Ed Wade left and right. But looking back on it, we don't win that World Series or go on that magical 5-year run without Ed Wade's development system being put in place that has now worked in multiple cities. It's crazy.
I mean, now Houston, obviously, they pretty much did it right. They had all the young guys, but then they've done a great job also at bringing in key free agents like Justin Verlander. I mean, Justin Verlander is turning back the clock this year. I don't know if you noticed. He has a 1.22 ERA and coming back from Tommy John. Like, it's insane because to me, he's one of the greatest.
I'm saying you can say that about anything, though. We don't win a Super Bowl without Chip being here. It's so funny. I think about this all the time, George. Well, first off, wasn't Lane Johnson part of Chip Kelly's draft? I think Chip Kelly picked Lane Johnson, but Chip Kelly had one good draft here. But I always think about, George and Jason, I always think about the what if. Like, we win that Super Bowl because of Chip Kelly, the failures. We get to draft Carson Wentz. We have a great, like the steps, everything that happened there that won us that Super Bowl. Yes, it's because of Chip Kelly. But you know what I always think about? What if? It was just hashtags were still pretty new. It was hashtag do the deal. Chip Kelly wanted to trade everything to get Marcus Mariota in Philly because that's what he wanted. Everybody thought, that college success would translate. We were the rumors of what we were going to trade to move up to get Marcus Mariota. It's insane. And I was hashtagging it, do the deal. I was. And could you imagine, because obviously Marcus Mariota has not turned into a superstar pro quarterback. Maybe he would have with Chip Kelly right out of college. I don't know. But could you imagine if that would have happened? What would have happened to the rest of the history of the Eagles? Like, we never probably win a Super Bowl. Doug Peterson never comes here. Who knows how much worse we get before we start? Who knows? It's the Chip Kelly thing always gets me to think about what if the deal would have been done.
Well, that just shows you how gung-ho, not just Eagles fans in general, but all fans are about getting the next best quarterback. And we've talked about that how often with the Jalen Hurts stuff. I mean, it's always an issue, and everyone just wants the next best thing. And it's like, okay. It's funny because we talked about this year's draft class and how, you're looking at the quarterbacks and you're like, oh, they're not that, they don't look like anything special. But that's the funny thing that happens in the NFL. Like, you'll have a year like this, and all of a sudden you could see a guy like Kenny Pickett, who obviously was the number one quarterback taken. He could actually end up being really good. Like, how do we don't know, dude, because all we do is sit there and say what we think.
Carson Strong is going to make the Eagles roster. Carson Strong, who knows? Maybe he's a decent quarterback someday. He didn't have so many issues.
He does have talent. The funny thing about Carson Strong is he's just not mobile. But
he was a quarterback meant to play in the 80s and early 90s when you just sit back there and fire away. You know what I mean? He's not a
like new Peyton Manning.
Yeah, he's more like a Peyton Manning. I was thinking like a Jeff George, pull some names out from my past, you know?
George.
Guys Drew Bledsoe, guys that, just stood there and threw the football. Carson Palmer, those kind of guys. But anyway, back to the Phillies for a second. Overreaction Monday. How bad does it have to get before they make a move? Whether it's a trade or whether it's firing Girardi, how bad does it have to get? George saying he thinks Willis will be the guy that breaks out this year. It's very possible. Who do you go to?
Tennessee.
Where?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Well, that's a good spot because they'll hold the clipboard for a year or two. You want to go somewhere as a young quarterback that you can hold the clipboard. No, it's okay because I think all these topics are relatable, George. Absolutely. But how bad does it have to get? You could say it in football. How bad would it have to get for the Eagles? I mean, it didn't get bad enough last year for them to fire Jonathan Gannon when we were all calling for it. So Drew says they have to be 10 games under 500. Not 10 games under 500. Wow, that means
I was going to say 12 games out. 12 games out of first.
Then that means it's going to be too late. If they have to wait till they're 10 games out under 500 or 12 games out of first place, it's just going to be too late.
Well, they're already 8. I mean, how many? They could go. They could lose 4 of the Mets and they're out 12.
I would do it right now.
I've been saying I would have did it yesterday, Phil, but they're not doing it because Nebraska already said you're already safe, and I don't understand it. I don't understand where this team's mentality is. I can't understand how John Middleton isn't foaming at the mouth right now, pissed off that he spent all this fucking money and the team sucks. They're average.
You got 4 against the Braves starting today, 4 against the Braves, and 3 against the Mets. That's 7 road games against your division. Dude, can we honestly say, to wrap this part of the show up before we get into this Mount Rushmore topic, can you honestly tell yourself that you think they're going to win 2 of the next 7 games?
No.
Exactly. So if they go 2-5, that's 3 more games under 500. They are currently, hold on, where's their record here? So they're 3. So that put them 6 games out. So that put them at 21 and 27 at the end of this week.
Going
into 21
June.
and 27 enough to get them fired then?
If not,
you got to be rooting for losses. So that's the step. So the overreaction Monday is I keep saying you got to take a step back before you can take 2 steps forward with a team. Is the overreaction Monday statement? I need them to lose so that we step back, so that they fire the coach, so that they then can take the step forward they need with a new mindset. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I saw a lot of people coming in your tweet and saying that what will getting rid of Girardi do? It won't help the team because the team is flawed. The pitching staff's not good enough. Listen,
they'll bring new energy.
While I agree that the pitching staff is not good enough to win a championship, I do think that the pitching staff is better than it's been. It's better than it was last year. It's better than years prior. I'm not saying that that's a good excuse, and I'm not saying that that's like that you should just sit on your laurels and say, oh, it's okay. But this pitching staff should be good enough with the offense that they have. The problem is how many times do I have to say it? The offense is flawed. It doesn't matter how good the offense is. They're all streaky hitters, and you're seeing it. You still don't have all of them hot at the same time. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. I think everyone just keeps saying, oh, they're just ready to break out. Everyone says that, and then you see it. As soon as someone says that, they go flat on their face. Someone said it 2 weeks ago, and now look, Castellanos went from hitting 300 to 265. Now he's slumping. Like, there's not any rhythm or consistency from any of them. The only consistent player on this team is Bryce Harper. And I love the guy. But it's sad because, once again, I feel like Bryce Harper's like Joel Embiid. Like, he's the only guy. And the rest of the team just doesn't either have heart or they don't have the talent to solidify where they're at in the pecking order in this league. Because, I see guys like Rhys Hoskins, still. It's just, I don't know. He annoys me. I'm sorry. Maybe he's just the guy I'm hiring.
Let's wrap the Phillies talk up for the day there. We'll continue talking Phillies and all this this week on Trending here on the AM. I want to move on to a different topic here. Different topic is the Mount Rushmore of all-time sports athletes. So it was the PGA Championship this weekend. Justin Thomas, my 5th outright pick of the year. I am on fire. I picked the outright winner 2 of the last 3. Make sure you're watching Fairway to Heaven Tuesdays right here on DSM. I do all the gambling and fantasy golf content. Dude, we are making money. At Justin Thomas. Actually, I had a whole bunch of the guys in the top 10, all over my betting card and fantasy golf card, guys. Locked in on the fantasy golf content. But playing this weekend was Tiger Woods. It's only the second event he's played since his horrific car accident last year. Okay. The guy is obviously still hurt really bad. He tried to give it a go at the Masters, made the cut, struggled on the weekend. You could tell the injuries, catch up to him. This weekend, barely made the cut again. Actually had to withdraw after his Saturday round because the pain was becoming too much. Now, he's supposed to play in the U.S. Open. That's in 3 weeks. I doubt he does. I just don't think there's enough time for him to recover. He wants to play the Open Championship up in St. Andrews in July. I think he will play then. But it got me thinking when he withdrew Saturday night and didn't play on Sunday that we might be seeing the end of the Tiger Woods golf. And it made me start to think where he ranks in the pantheon of athletes, the greatest athletes of all time, but also not just on pure, accomplishments. Like he's won 15 majors. I have his thing up here. Let's just go over this real quick. Tiger Woods in his career, he turned pro at like 96, 97, somewhere around there. He's got 15 major championships, 82 wins on the PGA Tour, 41 wins on the European Tour, 3 on the Japanese Tour, 2 on the Asian Tour, 3 on the Australia-Asia Tour, 21 amateur wins when he was still an amateur. And then there's something that says 17 other wins. I don't even know what the other wins are. Okay? But not only did he win all those golf events and broke so many, career earning records, but what he did for the sport, a new generation, from 96 to 99 when he first started getting hot and famous, 10 million more people started playing golf regularly, most likely because of Tiger Woods. Payouts for tournaments went from first place prizes of 6, 7, 800,000 to $3, $4, $5 million for first place. He was the first golfer to get an endorsement deal. Nobody had career earnings of over $7 million in endorsements. He was making $50 million a year. And all of a sudden, all the other golfers started making that kind of money endorsement-wise. So not just the on-the-course accomplishments, but the ancillary stuff. See, I like to stick that word in there. That Tiger Woods did for the golf game. Does he got to at least be considered as one of the most influential and successful athletes of all time?
I mean, absolutely.
I know you're not a golf fan. I know you don't know the stats and the details of his history, but even as a non-golf fan, you know who Tiger Woods is.
I mean, I can give you my 4 if you'd like.
I would love to hear if he ranks in that top 4 and where he would rank in that top 4.
My 4 Mount Rushmore of all-time athletes. This is mine. Now, everyone has their own list. That's the thing with lists. They're very arbitrary and they're very sometimes controversial, but this is my list. So I definitely got Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, Wayne Gretzky, Tiger Woods, Wayne Gretzky, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan.
Okay.
That's my top 4.
We agree on 2 because I got Tiger Woods on there as well. I got Michael Jordan on there as well. I got to put Muhammad Ali on there. You can't change it. Too late. You can't change it.
That's okay.
But see, I'm torn on my 4th one. Okay, because I want to put Babe Ruth to an extent on there. I want to put Michael Phelps on there. Obviously one of the greatest, if not the greatest, U.S. Olympic athlete of all time.
You don't have Tiger Woods?
No, I do. I said Tiger Woods, okay. Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali. But I also something in my mind makes me want to put Serena Williams. If I put Tiger Woods on what Serena Williams has basically done the exact same thing for tennis and for women that Tiger Woods did for the game of golf. So I'm really struggling with that last spot, whether it's Babe Ruth, because obviously he's the first big star in baseball, Phelps and Serena Williams. I'm not sure which way to go with that one.
I don't know how you can't have Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can't. Like, that's if you're going to use the same argument, not what Tom Brady's done for the NFL, like, and what he is at a position that nobody's even close besides Joe Montana. Like, not even close.
But what does he do off the field?
Well,
like, I'm trying to take it
okay,
all.
Well,
Muhammad Ali was the greatest boxer, but also so influential off. I'm looking at the Mount Rushmore as the people that were great, the greatest of all time in their sport, but also influential off the court.
Well, that changes my list then, because I was just strictly going by what
I said that up front.
I was strictly going by what they did on the field or on the court. Like, if you want to go that, yeah,
I'm taking the whole picture. I'm taking it all into the equation, because I think that's why. Because I think you can make an argument that Tiger Woods, if you go just on the course, he barely makes the top 4.
See, I don't know how you can't even look at Wayne Gretzky either, though. What he did for hockey
I'm just not a big hockey guy. I don't know enough about hockey.
But once again, I'm not a big golf guy, but I have Tiger Woods because I know it's like Wayne Gretzky was basically the Tiger Woods of golf. Of hockey. Dude, I know it's hard. Once again, like, there's probably 5 guys that I could put on the list other than the top 4. There's probably 10. It's probably too small of a list because it's too hard when it really comes down to it. We can get in arguments about it. Yeah. Because I know there's going to be people that are going to argue with you and I about Michael Jordan. When I think Michael Jordan, I hate when you get in the argument with Michael Jordan and LeBron. It's like, I look at what Michael Jordan did. I know LeBron's had a longer career. So, but that has to be something to it. Like, Michael Jordan in his prime was like probably the best basketball player I've ever seen.
I did a quick Google search. I just typed in the words "greatest athletes of all time," and this is to answer George, because he says we're only covering the last, basically our lifetime. Well, our lifetime is all I can really cover. But Carl Lewis, he was great when I was a kid. Olympic runner. Jesse Owens comes up. So the top names that come up when you Google search greatest athletes of all time, most of them are Olympic athletes. The Carl Lewis, Jesse Owens, Michael Jordan, Marion Jones, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, and Tiger Woods. They're your top 6 in Google when you type this in. Florence Griffin Jr., Colin Jackson, Babe Dickerson, Zaharis. Looks like she was a female golfer born in 1911. Never heard of her. Gail Devers. Let's see. Hal Gerbersaldi. I don't even know who he is. A lot of Olympic athletes when you type in greatest athletes of all time. A lot of them. And maybe that's just because I don't know the Olympic, the names of the Olympians as well. I just think of Michael Phelps because he won so many gold medals for America recently. Carl Lewis obviously was right at the beginning of my, sports journey. So I do remember him and Jackie Joyner-Kersee a little bit.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
I think this is such a great topic. I think we should have a whole show on it and bring guests on. I'm serious.
Yeah,
I think we could have an awesome show where you have a round table and everyone has their picks, and then you just kind of discuss it and debate it. Like, because it's that much of it. It's that big of a topic. I know we're spending a short time on it, but honestly,
I want to talk about Tiger Woods a little bit more here before we wrap this conversation up and what he has meant for the game, but also, when is it time for an athlete just to say, yeah, and I'm not saying Tiger Woods has to call it quits per se, but all right, I know you didn't watch golf this weekend, but I watched him at the Masters and I watched him this weekend at the PGA. How do I say it? Look, he's obviously not ready to play from his injuries, and I don't know if it's him and because he's always been a guy that has a strong mental fortitude. He always wants to be the best. He always wants to prove people wrong, et cetera, et cetera. Is he he's forcing himself to come back probably too soon. And he's made commitments. He tries to stick to the commitments. The mental do athletes sometimes need people to step in and say, yo, back off a little bit. Take it easy. There's nothing else to prove. If you watch him on Saturday, it was obviously his game wasn't good because of the injury. But it was also ugly or hard to watch because you've got in your mind that Tiger Woods is the greatest of all time. And you see him playing like an average Joe Schmo out there. And I don't want to say it tarnishes his legacy because it doesn't, but it's not the same. And sometimes I feel bad that athletes feel the need to go out there and perform at less than 100%. Oh, absolutely, Pele. Absolutely. He was on my maybe list as well. I don't know enough about soccer, but I do know he's probably the biggest name in soccer. But I just don't know how I feel about Tiger Woods pushing himself right now at this point when he has nothing left to prove. Do you know what I'm trying to get at there?
I think it's a fine line. Who's going to tell him that? Especially when somebody's been bred to basically have the mentality that I am the best, I'm going to be the best, I am the best, I will be the best. That's Tiger Woods in a nutshell. Who's going to all of a sudden come and tell him, dude, let your injury heal? Because honestly, I don't think it's not an injury that he even had on the golf course. He had, a freak accident, a car accident, and it's unfortunate, but it's a serious injury that he had. I don't think people realize how big it was for him to even be able to come back, especially that quick from that type of injury. I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough. I didn't watch it, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because you're right. I think I'd be very upset watching it. Because for me, and this just shows you how important Tiger Woods is. For me, I'm not a golf fan at all. I think I've golfed once in my life. I hardly ever watch it, but the only thing that I know about golf is Tiger Woods. And if that doesn't tell you how big it is, from an outside guy, when that's all you know, that shows you how important he is. I mean, obviously, I've heard the name Jack Nicklaus and all the other greats, but Tiger Woods is he's somebody that transcends not only the sport, he transcends the culture, he transcends everything. Because Tiger Woods to me is we talk about guys in other sports that have done this. I mean, Kobe Bryant was the same way. He was a great basketball player, one of the probably 10 greatest ever, but he was bigger than life, what he did off the court and what he did for people. The name, you didn't have to be a basketball fan to know that name. Same thing with Michael Jordan. These guys, that's how I really rate who they are as people. And you're right. Muhammad Ali, you didn't have to see the guy. You didn't have to be alive to know who Muhammad Ali is. He's a legend. These guys are legends, and that's what it is. That's the difference between
we'll be talking about Tiger Woods 50 years from now, 80 years from now, and his run. Just I
told you the story. I told you the story yesterday about my grandfather,
pole vaulter and basketball player. Just so you know,
I told you yesterday about my grandfather. My grandfather adored Tiger Woods to the point where I used to laugh at him and say he was obsessed, but he had statues of him and pictures, and he just followed Tiger Woods that was his thing, and that was my grandfather. So it just means a lot to me, and the guy is definitely on the pantheon. I mean, I don't think there's anybody who can argue it.
I mean, I just look at it. I didn't start playing golf till about 2000, and I did it because I broke my leg. And I needed some form of athletics that didn't involve running and heavy walking and stuff like that. And you just look at it. Tiger Woods won from 2000 to 2002, 19 tournaments, 6 major championships. Okay. That's what got me into golf. I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, should I play this golf game because it's the only thing my roommate plays it in college, whatever. Tiger Woods, I got to be like Tiger Woods now. I gotta, if it wasn't for him, I'd probably never get into the sport. And now it's the only sport I play physically because it's the only one I can play. But still, there's a generation of people like me that he got into the game. And yeah, look, say what you will, but also, like I said, every golfer that plays now, that has played the last 20 years, and they'll play for the next 50 years, Tiger Woods, a thank you. Because they were making good money before Tiger Woods. But the money that's involved in the PGA Tour right now, hell, there is so much money, and this is a side topic. It's very controversial. The Saudi Arabian princes are trying to start their own side. I don't know if you've seen this story. The evil Saudi princes, I don't know, a lot of politics with that stuff. They're trying to start evil Saudi princes.
Evil?
Aren't the Saudi Arabians, they've like murdered like media
Did you
members?
say evil?
Evil.
Okay.
Saudi princes are some pretty shady people. They've done a lot of bad things. They're trying to start a competing tour, and they're trying to woo, professional golfers from the PGA over to their tour by throwing large money at these guys. And most of them are not going to go because, again, Tiger Woods or the Saudis that are backing it have been involved with that media, that reporter that got murdered and stuff like that. The whole controversy thing. But they see how much money is in golf. And the one thing with the Saudis is they will spend their money, their oil money, if it means making more money. And they see what kind of money's in golf. And they're trying to throw, Bryson DeChambeau, he's one of the hottest names on tour nowadays because he's this big hitter. He crushes the golf ball. He's got a unique swing and look, blah, blah, blah. They offered him something like $100 million just to come play 8 golf tournaments. Plus, that didn't count the prize money if he won the tournaments. Just because they know the people that are going to show up and line up to watch a golf tournament with Bryson DeChambeau. Bryson DeChambeau does not exist as the attraction if Tiger Woods doesn't start making golfers attractions. Just because they...
That's insane.
I mean, that's why Phil Mickelson's not playing, because he aligns himself with the Saudis, and he's basically been blackballed from the PGA Tour now.
See, I don't hear any of this stuff, but I need to do some research.
You look up the LIV, they're calling it the LIV Saudi Tour. You should read up on it and read up on why Phil Mickelson isn't playing golf right now. Basically, to sum it up, Phil Mickelson, you know who Phil Mickelson is, right?
Yeah.
One of the greatest golfers of all time. Lefty. Oldest player to ever win. He won the PGA Championship last year. He's the oldest player to ever win a major championship. 50 years old. He said that he would back the Saudi. His exact words were something along the lines of, yes, I know they've done some bad things with that killing that reporter, but you know what? If supporting them creates change on the PGA Tour, then I'm all for it.
Wow.
I guess he's got issues with the way the PGA Tour runs the thing, which they've been running it the same way for 50 years. I don't know what he wants changed, but it's a
scary,
crazy
man.
You really should read up on it if you haven't. It's the Saudi, like I said, the Saudis will spend their money. They'll spend it.
I can't believe it's something like that's not bigger news.
It's really
we
big.
Talk
news
about sometimes like
it starts in June. It's really big news in the golf circle, and I haven't really.
But I'm saying like that's pretty scary. And what I'm saying is, it's big in the golf circle, but it's not big news, and that's part of the problem. Like I think sometimes we talk about media and how the media portrays certain things. Like they portray what they want people to see. They don't portray sometimes the important things, that the hard conversations that we need to have. That's pretty scary, dude.
Well, the thing is, like, a lot of the golfers are scared to go over on this little Saudi Arabian tour because look at Phil Mickelson showed his allegiance to this tour, and they're going to pay him to go play on this tour. But FedEx dropped Phil Mickelson. There's a bank company that he does commercials for that he lost over $100 million in endorsement contracts by backing the Saudis because these companies didn't want their name attached with the Saudi tour because of what the Saudis have done.
I mean, that's unacceptable. I can't believe he's doing it. Like they killed an American. I mean, I don't.
It's crazy.
It's scary.
I didn't want to get. I don't have all the information up on my screen. It's stuff that I don't know. It's tough for me to talk about. Maybe I'll talk about it on one of the Fairway to Heavens in the coming weeks as it gets closer, because I think it's like June 8th when their first tournament's supposed to happen. And there's some European names that are big. Sergio Garcia probably playing in it. Louis Oosthuizen probably playing in it. Some pretty big names that have won major championships that are going to play on it.
I didn't realize how much money was involved.
Well, this is a great example right here from Mark. When WWE goes to Saudi, the Saudi Arabian princes, they pay the WWE hundreds of millions of dollars to come put shows on down in Saudi Arabia. And they pay show. They want, it doesn't matter who it is. If the guy's been retired for 100 years, they will pay. They got Shawn Michaels to come out of retirement. They got The Undertaker to come out of retirement. They got so many guys to come out of retirement because that's what they wanted. The Saudis will push all this money forward. Now, Vince McMahon, he's a greedy businessman. He doesn't care who he does business with. If he does business with the Saudis, that's fine. Now, the golf tour, the PGA Tour, they want to stay separated from it because, so the way it works, Jason, like you have to be a member of the PGA to play on the PGA Tour. You got to pay it's almost like a union. You pay your dues to be on the tour and stuff like that. You got to earn your way on, then you got to pay to be a part of it. You're under a contract to play for the PGA. But all these golfers, you saw Tiger Woods, how many wins outside the PGA Tour he had. Any event outside the PGA Tour schedule that you want to play in, you've got to request release from your contract for 1 week to go play in X event, or for 2 weeks to go play these two events, and then you're back. The PGA Tour will not release any of these guys from their contract. So these guys are going to get banned from the PGA if they go play in the Saudi League. Sergio Garcia, multiple green jackets, will be banned from playing at Augusta National next year if he goes and tees it up. Louis Oosthuizen, one of the best golfers to never win a major, banned from the PGA Tour if he goes over there and plays.
That's crazy.
Difference between the WWE just accepting the money and the PGA, like, I can let our guys go over there, get more name for themselves. Maybe it'll bring more eyes back to the PGA Tour. No. We don't want to be associated anything with the Saudis. So they've kept themselves separated a little bit.
Well,
there.
that's
so
smart.
Really interesting. It is smart, but it's interesting. Anyway, we got a little off topic there. Again, Tiger Woods, Mount Rushmore, fire Joe Girardi today, please. It's Overreaction Monday right here on DSM Media, trending in the AM every Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. Again, I am Phil Slifer, your host at Bearded Knowledge. Make sure you shoot me a follow. And Jason Voorhees next to me here at Mustang3651. Jason will be back on Wednesday. Mark will be back on Thursday. So that means you're stuck with me tomorrow, guys. So make sure you tune in. Who knows what'll be on the agenda tomorrow? Who knows? Something. Not sure.
Phillies win. The Phillies play tonight.
Maybe some new breaking news will happen. Some press conference will happen. You never know what's going to come up on the daily agenda. But it's been a pleasure today, as always, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Make sure you share this show out, like this show, retweet it, and make sure you hit that subscribe button right there on the YouTube page. Everybody have a great day. Everybody have a great Monday. And, yeah, go
Fly,
Birds.
fly.
Go Birds.